So Clay, I know a restaurant owner who, everything is slowly opening back up right now. Outside seating and dining, and this particular friend actually has outside dining, but there's a concern about opening up. Um, and it be concerned that what if someone gets COVID and tries to pinpoint that restaurant as the point of origin? There's lots of lawsuits that happen. People trip at a restaurant, and lots of times that they're settled out of court, and it's just insurance based. But I'd like to address any of those people who have those concerns about opening up, and if they would some way be liable if someone did get COVID and claimed it came from that space.
Yeah, so this is a really, really complex question, Whitney, because you're trying to navigate the uncertainty of how you are diagnosed or how you obtain a virus, and how it also kind of is intertwined with state emergency orders in terms of what the government's doing, whether it's the state, the governor, or what your local municipalities are doing with easing restrictions. So if, let's say, this was somebody who came to us, certainly the first thing I would tell them is, you need to always consider what is, best for not only yourself, but the customers who are going to be coming into your restaurant. I think any restaurant owner, any business owner, hopefully would tell you that the customer's safety is their number one priority. Whether you're cooking them something or you're providing a space for them just to come and relax, or obtain your service. I hope that that's what most customer, business owners would tell you. But so
Agreed.
that's something that they need to consider just in terms of customer safety. But it gets a little more intricate after that because I think, as I've told you on our last call that we did, anybody can sue anyone for anything. I can't unfortunately stop that from happening as a lawyer. If I was representing a restaurant owner, I'd say, if somebody wants to sue you, they're going to sue you, unfortunately. So I know that's something that you need to consider as you're opening, and just kind of the general public right now as it is. But there are a few more things in there that you need to consider. Do you have all of your employees been tested? Can they show you that they've been tested? Do they believe that they've been you know in contact with somebody who has had the virus, or do they think they've had any recent exposure to someone who may have had the virus? Certainly if that's something that you are aware of as a restaurant owner or a business owner, and then you put customers around that person, I think that it would be a risky decision to make for anyone, whether I was an attorney representing or advising that client, or just a member of the general public. I think I'd want to know if one of your employees has been exposed to COVID-19 or coronavirus.
Yes.
So those are some of the things you need to consider. And especially as a restaurant owner, you're going to be having a lot of people from the general public who are coming to your restaurant, and you obviously cannot test each individual, or you may ask them if they've been tested, but they certainly don't have to tell you if they've been tested. That's their decision to tell you whether or not they have, and ultimately you'd have to rely on them telling you the truth anyways. So those are some of the things to consider. It certainly is a difficult decision to make if have been closed down and need to open to make some money or generate income and pay employees. But there are a lot of things that I would tell that restaurant owner that they probably need to do, and some protocol that they need to have in place first to, one, ensure customer safety, which I think is the most important thing, and then two, protect themselves and also their employees.
Yeah.
Just from their employee aspect,
Mhm.
coming in contact with a lot more customers now who you can't keep track of, you don't know where they've been. Um, it's kind of a risky decision to make as well, but I certainly understand the economic difficulties in making that decision, and people are going to do what they think is best for them and their company. But certainly, that would be something I would be concerned about with opening up, is whether somebody might claim that I've exposed them to the virus, because there really just simply is no way to know. And
Right. So
unfortunately.
what if a customer came to you or someone came to you and said, "Hey, I think I got COVID, I got sick, I lost my job because of whatever, whatever, um, and I'm pretty sure I got it from here. I want to sue them."
I think right now that's something I probably would not pursue myself. I think that we call the burden of proof is probably difficult to establish in that case.
Mhm.
In civil cases in South Carolina and in most states, the civil burden of proof is called the preponderance of the evidence. That is it more likely than not? So in civil cases, the civil burden is essentially more than 50%. Do you believe my story more than 50% is true or is more likely than the defendant's story? So
Mhm.
it's not as high as the beyond a reasonable doubt standard that you hear about in criminal cases. But I still think that it would be extremely difficult, certainly from a diagnosis standpoint, and certainly from kind of the other factors we talked about in terms of tracking individual people, where they've been, what they've come into contact with. I think that would be very, very difficult to show that I became infected because I came into contact with only that restaurant. You know, from my standpoint as a plaintiff, I think that you would be open or subject yourself to where have you been for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think that's kind of the exposure time and the latency that we've
Yeah.
heard about is this 2 week quarantine period. So where have you been for the last 2 weeks? Well, now I don't believe you, so let me track your cell phone, let me get your cell phone data points. Where have you been for the last
Wow.
2 weeks? Who have you
Opening
been
up a
talking
can of worms.
a ton of really a can of worms, but that's what you do when you file a lawsuit. You open up a good bit of your private life to inspection.
Mhm.
A defendant is certainly entitled to conduct discovery just as much as we can, and so they can conduct discovery to try and figure out whether your story is accurate and whether it's more likely than not that you became exposed at that business owner's place of business besides just walking down the street or going to Publix or going to the gas station where somebody right prior to you being there who had been exposed, but not who was asymptomatic, you came into contact with that person. I think that's very difficult in terms of the level of proof required when we're talking about a virus and how it spreads. So certainly, I think that would be just the basic facts we're talking about would make me a little nervous about filing that lawsuit or signing that client up unless they had some information that the business owner or one of their employees had it and touched them or exposed them in some form or some manner. That's some information that we would like to probably conduct an investigation before filing the suit on our own, so that we could verify some of that information from the client. And I think the length of my answer on this has shown just kind of how complex that entire scenario is.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult to advise somebody not to open, especially if they, need the business or the income or the money. But I do think there's a lot of considerations that person should make um,
Mhm.
when deciding whether to do that. And I think just from the general public, our standpoint, there are certainly a lot of considerations we all should make before going to, put ourselves around people again and going to restaurants.
Yeah.
I think it's important, to listen to the medical professionals and,
Mhm.
wear a mask and take the precautions necessary to make sure we're not exposing other people to something we may have been exposed to.
It's really just about responsibility. Unfortunately, not everyone has the same mindset, which is why you end up with concerns like this from restaurants again who end up becoming victim to so many lawsuits or potential lawsuits that they just settle with the insurance company just to be done with it. So I can see there's a real sensitivity, um, especially for restaurants right now.